Hello, I'm Dan Rather, and welcome to the CBS Evening News Online Edition. Just ahead, with his second swearing in just a couple of days away now, what's on President Bush's mind? He'll tell you in a one-on-one pre-inaugural interview with CBS News. Also, clearing roadside bombs in Iraq. It's the job of Task Force Trailblazer, and you'll see how dangerous it is when we take you along on a mission. And for 100 years, he never got the respect he deserved. But finally, African-American jockey Jimmy Wingfield is about to, and you'll be there. It's all starting now on the CBS Evening News Online Edition. In just 3 days, George W. Bush will be sworn in for a second term as president. He's facing some major challenges, including the war in Iraq with its ever-increasing casualties and a dicey election coming very soon. Here at home, the president wants big changes in Social Security. CBS's John Roberts sat down with President Bush today for a one-on-one interview and joins us now from the White House. John?
Dan, with just 2 weeks to go now until elections in Iraq, President Bush is diminishing expectations for voter turnout. I asked him today, amid government forecasts that as many as 25% of the Iraqi people will not be able to vote, how will he measure success?
The fact that they're voting. There were a lot of people that would have given you long odds, a year or a half ago or so, that there'd be elections at all in Iraq. Obviously, we want everybody to vote, and there are some who aren't going to vote because they're afraid for their lives. But they'd want to vote, and that's important.
The road to democracy in Iraq is not the only tough one ahead for President Bush. On his plans to reform Social Security, the president's own party is divided. Many Republicans don't believe there's a crisis and say, why set off a political war? Democrats charge the proposal for private accounts will destroy, not save Social Security.
Will private accounts by themselves fix Social Security?
There's going to be it was very important is for people to put all options on the table, with the exception of affecting those who have already retired, like I have said, and without raising the payroll tax. Other than that, I'm open-minded.
Will you absolutely have to cut benefits for future retirees in order to keep Social Security solvent?
Well, we'll work with Congress on all different ways to address the issue, but one thing is for certain, if we don't act, in other words, if we fall for the line that says nothing is wrong with the system, we'll either have to raise payroll taxes significantly or slash benefits, and that's pretty clear.
So is that a yes or a no?
That is, I'm working with Congress to come up with a solution.
The president will need bipartisan support if he hopes to get his agenda through. Mr. Bush says he'll try to heal the wounds of a divisive election with his inaugural address, but he acknowledges time is short.
But you're right. We've got to get moving and get some things done before people kind of write me off.
Could I just bring up the L word quickly? How do you want...
Is that Laura?
No, that's legacy.
Legacy, okay.
How do you want your presidency to be recognized in the history books?
Oh, John, first of all, I don't think I'll be around to really see the history. I think that...
But you've got to care about it.
Oh, I know, kind of. How about this, that George W. Bush used the great influence of America to spread freedom at home and abroad.
Which really raises the stakes for what will happen on January 30th. Both Iraq's future and the president's legacy are riding on the outcome of the Iraqi elections. Dan?
John Roberts reporting live from the White House. Thanks, John. The enemies of freedom and democratic government in Iraq are trying some unusual new tactics. Iraqi police say insurgents threatened an Iraqi laundry worker at a U.S. base, trying to force him to spray harmful chemicals on American uniforms. The biggest threat to U.S. troops is still the roadside bomb. But they're reducing that threat with better armor and some new tactics of their own. CBS's David Martin on special assignment in Iraq gives you the inside story.
An abandoned car rigged to blow up, deliberately set off by Americans, not by insurgents. Even 500 yards away, you can see the shrapnel whizzing by. Score one for Task Force Trailblazer and its unlikely-looking vehicles searching for roadside bombs. It's one of the most dangerous missions in Iraq, and Sergeant Robert Lawson and his National Guard troops from North Dakota have had to learn it from scratch. Is this what you thought you were going to be doing when you came over here?
There was really no preparation for the mission.
After months of having to rely on makeshift armor, they finally have fully armored Humvees and mine detection vehicles with a cab for the driver high up and well away from the focus of the blast. This one got blown up by a roadside bomb, but the driver walked away.
I'd rather blow up a piece of equipment than, an American life.
The Trailblazers are getting better at finding so-called improvised explosive devices, IEDs for short, but there are also more of them out there.
This is a shell casing right here.
They ever going to run out of these?
This country is filled with Iraqi artillery rounds. There's an endless supply.
The insurgents used to hide their roadside bombs behind highway guardrails, so U.S. troops tore down all the guardrails. That hasn't stopped the insurgents, who keep coming up with new ways to hide their bombs.
They're getting smarter.
The insurgents are getting smarter.
Yep.
Every suspicious object has to be inspected. For the past month, they've had this vehicle with its robotic arm to do the most hazardous part for them. The Trailblazers have found about 100 bombs since last March. This one looked like a sign until the artillery shell inside was discovered and detonated. David Martin, CBS News, on the road to Tikrit.
One search for equality reached a milepost today, recognizing a history maker in the sport of kings. CBS's Troy Roberts has tonight's Eye on America.
It's taken more than 100 years, but one long forgotten chapter in the rich history of horse racing.
They're all ready.
And the story of one remarkable man.
They're in the gate.
Is finally being told.
And they're off.
Jimmy Wingfield, an African-American man all of 5 feet and 105 pounds, was a giant in the world of horse racing. The 17th child of a sharecropper, Wingfield won back-to-back Kentucky Derbies in 1901 and 1902, the last black jockey to do so. Biographer Ed Hotailing rediscovered Wink's story buried deep in racing records.
Unbelievable determination to win almost at any cost.
Around the turn of the century, African-American jockeys were among the sport's brightest stars. But as racing grew more popular and lucrative, racism effectively ended their careers.
They were not only ridden off the tracks in many cases during fights with white jockeys, but they were written out of the sport by historians.
Wingfield left for Russia.
Within 1 year, he was the top rider in Russia. He was making $100,000 a year, and these are pre-World War I dollars.
That all ended with the Bolshevik Revolution. Wingfield escaped to France, where he again managed to resurrect his career when the Nazi invasion forced him into exile once more.
Why didn't he go back home?
To do what? Muck out stables? To be insulted in the streets?
Finally, a nearly destitute Wingfield did go back to America.
No one in New York racing circles was willing to give Wingfield a job. The man who had once dominated the sport couldn't even get hired as a stable hand.
This is a 6-furlong claimer.
Racing hasn't changed much since then. Just ask Noel Winter, one of only a handful of working African-American jockeys.
It's difficult at times because there are a lot of people that won't give you a chance to ride a good horse or even a bad horse.
Because you're black.
Because of the color of your skin.
First running of the Jimmy Wingfield.
But the racing world is beginning to remember Wink.
They're off.
This afternoon, New York's Aqueduct Racetrack ran the inaugural Jimmy Wingfield Stakes.
Matty's Lion wins the Jimmy Wingfield Stakes by 6 lengths.
After 100 years, the racing phenomenon is back in the winner's circle again. At Aqueduct, Troy Roberts for Eye on America.
More stories are just a click away. But be sure to join me on television for the on-air edition of the CBS Evening News. On Tuesday's broadcast, the debut of the world's newest and biggest passenger airliner. We'll give you a first-hand look at this giant as the monster plane is rolled out. For CBSNews.com, I'm Dan Rather.